Welcome back, guys.
A while that I actually recorded, so yeah, this is a good one. We're taking this project with our JavaScript and HTML, CSS to a new level. Today we're doing the note-taking app, and as you can see here, we have two inputs. One is a text area, and the other one is just a normal input where you put the title of your note, and then you put whatever you want to talk about or whatever you want to take a note on. And we have this button here with the icon, and you click on it and you get your notes. I have two here. You can see here the bolded function here and the bolded objects in array are the title of the note, and you can see here, and each note comes with its own remove button, but we still have a delete all, or a delete all that deletes everything. Each note has its own delete button too. And just like here, let me just show you. You can put a title list. This is a data structure that is similar to arrays but also different from an array. Yeah, I just want to write something here to show you, and then we click add note. The moment we click it here, you can see here we created a new note with list as the topic, as the title of the note. And when you just click the remove button, it deletes. And we have here delete all, which actually deletes everything. And you see here, we click that and everything is gone. So that's what we're doing today. Going to be nice and simple. So yeah, get some water and yeah, get your computers too so we can do this together. As usual, we'll start with the HTML, then the CSS, then the JavaScript. And yeah, I'll try to make it as fast, and also yeah, just make sure you put comments in down below if you don't understand anything or if you have any questions, and also put a comment down when you've done it yourself and the code actually works, so I can know that actually yeah, it worked out for you. So yeah, let's get to it. Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is going to import the font awesome icon, because as you saw in the description of this project, we're using icons here for the buttons. So yes, the way you do that in CodePen is you just go to this icon here, click on it, and now you type font awesome, and we can see it right here. That's about it. First thing we're going to do is we will have a div that holds the inputs, and then we'll have another div that holds outputs basically, and then we'll have another div that holds the delete button, the delete all button. Not a div, we just have a button with some span tags and some icons. So yeah, you see what I mean. Let's just start it. Give it a class note, and then we have a h2 tag. Note taking, note taking app. Then the next thing is we have another div for our note input. And this note input is going to have a h3 tag that says basically add a add a new note. And now we're going to have another div that is going to take the inputs, the first input, which is yeah, input, and the second one, which is going to be a text area, because we're using a text area because it is a note and it's not just one line. We're going to make it multiple lines, so yeah, that's why we're using that. Yeah, so note wrapper. Inside the note wrapper we'll have our input text, of course. We'll give it an ID, and a placeholder. So ID notes title, and a placeholder. Title of your note. And that's it for the inputs. So the second one is, let me just make this a little bit wider because it's getting a little bit too tight over here. Yeah, looks much better like this. And the second one is text area. For text area, we don't need this name stuff. For sure, we need an ID. Give it note content. The columns, I would just give it 5 rows. Doesn't need columns. And for sure, placeholder too. Just so people know what to type, and just it looks better with a placeholder. Don't forget to put in the comments down below if you have any project suggestions. Put them down in the comments and I might make it happen. Write your notes here. ... And yep, that's it for our text area. The next thing is the button. So the button that actually is going to say add your note, and it's also going to be with a font awesome icon. So the button will have an ID for sure. Given an ID of add note button. Also give it a class for the CSS of button, and give it a type too. Yes, and inside this we'll have a span tag. And in the span tag we'll have our icon tag. And you know how font awesome works. If you don't know how font awesome works, it's basically we're gonna use the class to tell font awesome, the font awesome library, what icon we want. So in this case we want a plus sign, so that's why it's FA plus. Yeah, and that's about it. Now we just need to write what the button is going to say, which is add note. And you're seeing everything show up. You can see the icon showing up there. It's not going to look like that for sure. We're going to style it. And yep, that is actually it for the button. The next part is the div. That's basically going to show the output. So I have a div of class note list. So in this div of note list, the way it's going to be structured is, as you saw it in the output, we'll have the title show up, our h3 tag, and then we'll have the note itself show up. And then beside it, we'll see the icon, which is going to basically say remove. The button and the icon is going to say remove, to be able to remove the individual notes. Yes. So that's it. And now we want to make the button for, give it a type, the button that deletes everything. With an ID of delete all button. And inside that, just like the other one, we'll have a span. Inside the span, we'll have a icon tag. And this icon tag is going to be trash, because, yep, it's a delete. So it is going to the trash. And we are for sure going to use local storage here. So this is a nice project to actually understand what local storage is and how to use local storage, how to use JSON, the stringify, and all that good stuff. So yeah. And then yes, delete all. And that is it for the HTML. The next part is the CSS. You can see the structure here. And I will just make it a little bit pretty, add some background, add some like image icon. Wait, why isn't the trash button showing though? Okay, I spelled it. I didn't write it right. It should be FA. Oh, here should be FA. Yeah. Now I can see the trash right here. So yep, that's it for the HTML. Next CSS, and then for sure JavaScript to add all the functionality and everything. Yeah, so now it's time for the CSS. But before we do the CSS, I just remember that for us to actually style the outputs, that's where the container is going to be, and the buttons. It's better we just create them in the HTML first. We put them in the HTML. I will comment them out later or just remove them, but it's good for us to see what we're styling. So we will put it there just for styling purposes, but all this will be created in the JavaScript, so that's why we don't need to create it in the HTML. So hope you understand that, but probably you will understand it when I actually do it here. So yes, we'll create another div. We'll call the div note item. Note item. Inside note item will be our h3 tag. That's going to be for the title of the note. can just go the title goes here, and then we will have a p tag. I would just do the lorem 30. Yes. And after that, we will have our button. And just like before, the button will have, no, let me just copy it because I do not want to write this again. Yeah, the button is going to have all this. But instead of a plus, it's going to be a trash. And it's not going to be add nodes, it's going to be delete. So we have delete and we have delete all. Delete is going to be on each node that we create. Each node we create will have a title, will have the note itself, the note content, which is the p tag, and we'll also have a delete button to delete that note itself. And then the delete all is going to delete all the notes in there, all the notes we create. Yeah, and that's all. So now we can go back to the CSS. As you can see in the CSS, I imported Google Fonts. Hopefully you know how to do this. Just go to Google and you can either do this. I imported the CSS. They have a section for CSS and HTML. Anyone you want to import, you just copy and paste it on your CSS. If you take the CSS one and you copy and paste the HTML on your head, in the head of your HTML file. So yeah, I just chose the CSS because I just chose that for no particular reason. So let's get to it then. Do everything here because this is what the star means. And we just reset all our padding to 0, set our margin to 0, and if you have any comments, leave them down in the, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you have any, just anything to say, put it down in the comments below and I will reply them. So and then we have border box sizing, border box, and then font family. I'm using Poppins, sans serif. Yep, you can see it there. I like Poppins and Lato. Those are my two go-to fonts, but any fonts are. The whole point of this is you make it your project so you can change the fonts. So we'll put a line height of 1.5. Also font weight of 300. And then background image. We're not using background color because I want to use gradients, and to use linear gradients you need to use background image. To C1, C3, and FDBV to D. Those are the color codes. And I'll just set the height of this page to 100 VH so that it doesn't keep on repeating. And now it's time for the notes class, the div. We'll give it a max width because we're trying to make this site responsive too. So we're giving it a max width. Max width, and the difference between max width and width is that with max width, you're telling it can't be bigger than this. It can be less than it, but it can't be bigger than it. That's why we're saying this is a max width of 1000 pixels. We'll give it a margin of 3 rem auto. And a padding of 0, 1.5 rem. Yep, and that's it for notes. And if you forgot, notes is this here, the div that holds everything. It's the main container. Or notes, not notes. And then note h2. Give it a font size of 2.6 rem. Put it in the center with text align. Add a little bit of opacity, 0.7. And a margin bottom of 1 rem. No, I'm going to add this opacity. I'm going to put 9 instead. Yeah, that was a little bit too much. And the color. Yep. And now we go to notes input h3. We give it a color of white. But just to switch it up a little bit because you are learning this, so we use RGB and give it 255 red, 255 green, and 255 blue, which makes it white. That's why it's called RGB. R for red, G for blue, G for green, and B for blue. Next is the note wrapper. Give it a margin of 0.7 rem. And a padding of 0.5 rem. Next is the note title. And also the node's content. So we give it a width of 100%. It takes 100% of its parent container. A border of 2 pixel. Solid. And the RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0.2. And then a font size of 0.05 rem. Also add a padding of 0.55 rem. And margin bottom of 0.8 rem. Yeah, margin bottoms are really nice. Just give that space below right here. So we can see everything is getting into shape. And my favorite out of all of them, border radius. I have a thing for border radiuses. Don't know why, but just love the way they look after a border radius. I'm gonna put 5 pixels. Even 10. Yeah. And then notes content. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And also like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel out. So yeah, we'll resize none. Helps the channel out. So yeah. No title. Focus. Notes content. Focus. Outline 0. Yes, now it's time for the button. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit so we can see the buttons. It's looking really nice right now, so yeah. The button has a class of btn. Give it a background color. The background color is going to be this color, this kind of reddish orangish. Orange is one of my favorite colors. Yeah, I do have more than one favorite color, so yeah, orange is one of them. 5.9. Yep. And You are welcome to change the colors if you don't like them. Give it a border of, I might even change some of the colors if I see it doesn't really look that good after a while. Solid, and give it the same color as this. And then the color of the text itself is that, and give it a padding too of 0.55. And this is a fully responsive web page, so we are going to do media queries. And the width of 120px. Border radius of 2 pixels. Maybe, let me see, 5. Yeah, 5. And then font size of 1 rem. And for sure, cursor, pointer, transition, easy in and out. Because we're gonna do button, the focus, outline, and then button dot focus, colon focus again. No, hover this time. Give it a background of this color. I don't know the name of the color, but you can all see it. Box shadow, just to make it look a little bit better. Always looks better with a little bit of box shadow. Like I always say, you will hear this a lot because if you don't understand something, it's better you know. So either search it on Google or leave them down in the comments below, because that's the way you learn. You do have to know what you're doing. Yeah, so now it's time for the note list. Margin, 2rem, and a background image of the same background image we had earlier. So I'm just going to copy and paste that because I don't like doing stuff that I don't need to do, like writing it again. And then a padding of 2 rem and a border radius of 5 pixels. Then note item. My hair is itchy for some reason. Note item, do background. White, you can see inside. Margin 1 rem. Padding of 145 rem. Border radius 10 pixels. Box shadowing of 0, 0, 7 pixels, 0, RGBA, 0, 0, 0, 0.3, 0.3. Then do our note item, the h3 tag. That's the title. Give it a margin bottom, so give it some space there because it's way too close to the p tag. 1 rem. And note item. The p tag. We'll give that a padding bottom. Yep, you can see the space down there. Now let's deal with this button right here. The button inside note item. So we'll have a margin top of 0.8 rem and a background of white and a border of 2 pixels, solid, and our, yeah, this color here. If someone knows the color of this, please leave that down in the comments below. I don't know what color. It reminds me of orange, but and then a color of the same. Yep. So we see how that turned out. And that's it. All we need to do now is just a media query real quick. So we say add media. We'll give it a minimum width. This is to make it responsive of 992 pixels. And then the node list. We'll make the display a grid. And our grid template column. We'll tell it to repeat twice 1 FR. And that's it for the CSS. The next part is the JavaScript, and then we're done with this project. Then you can have your note-taking app and put all the notes you would need or all the notes you want to remember and all that. So yeah, next part is the JavaScript. Yeah, now it's the good part, the juicy part, the JavaScript. Everything that's gonna be, yeah, gonna just show us the whole functionality and everything and make this note-taking app actually work out. So yeah, enough rambling from me. Let's get to it. So yeah, the first thing we'll do is create a constant called note list div. Give it a document dot query selector. And what do we select? We select our note list. Now say let note ID equal to 1. We create a function called note. We take ID, we take title, and content. Now say this.id. If you don't know what this is, leave it down in the comments below. I might do a video about it to really explain it in full depth. Title. No, this video can't be too long, so I'm trying my best to, yeah, explain the whole functionality on a higher level, and then yeah, any little things like this and all that, you can always just check them out on Google. Google is your best friend, don't forget that. you and Google are best friends. And then the next part is, let me just put add event listener. It's a function. Create a function for that called event listener. Doesn't take any input. And say document dot get element by ID. Add new add nodes button. Yeah, add node button. That was the ID name. Then we add an event listener. And we're going to listen for a click from the button. And when that click is, when we click it, this function that we're going to create very soon pops out, which is add new note. And what we do now is, after this, we're going to call this function, because a function is useless if you don't call it. And yes, before I create that function, what I want to do is, because I will need a function inside that function. Inside this add new note, I will need a function. So what I will do is, I want to create that function now. And it's just a validation to make sure that these two inputs are not empty. So you see, this is a really good project because you get to do a lot of things like form validations, input validations, which is something you are going to use a lot. Validate input, ask the name of the function, title and content. And then if our condition, if title the value is not equal to empty, that means that's if it's not empty, and you guessed it right, content of value is not equal to empty. That means if they're not empty, I want to return true. Of course, we will have an else statement. If they are empty, what should happen? So if title.value is equal to, is basically empty. Say title dot class list dot add warning. Just going to change that for content. Oh, not value, but actually title. Say content. The value is empty, and then we change here. Anyway, you see title, you change it to content. This will speed things up. Yes. So you might be asking, this warning, what it basically created a class called warning, and we are going to go back to the CSS just to add a color, because I want that when this is empty, a color shows up, which basically tells the user that, oh, this shouldn't be empty. A red color, that's, red signifies like wrong or stop or all that. I also want to remove them. I want to remove it after a certain time, so I'll use set timeout. Title dot class classlist dot remove warning, and content dot class list dot remove warning. Yeah, just checking that I don't make any error. No spelling that I've gone self. Yes, so yeah. And then we set the time, set it to 166. 16 seconds, I think. Yeah, 16 seconds. 1600 milliseconds. And yes, that's it for the validation. So now we can go back here, and here we're going to create our add new note to the list. There's going to be an add new note function that we have an event listener for here. So say function add new note. Give it a constant, not constructor. Constant note title. Take the title of our note. Dot get element by ID. Note title. Also constant notes content, and just gonna copy this. Note content. So now we're going to use the function we created earlier, the validation function. So say if note title and note content return true. let notes. Okay, no. Then we say, yeah, let notes. Let note item equal new note. Say note ID. Note title dot value and our note content. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment. I sound like a broken record, but yeah, I want you to understand what you're doing too. And also, it makes it interactive. I'm just gonna see how responsive it is. Just gonna put all that to the side so we have all the screen for our JavaScript, because that's the important thing. I want you to see everything right. The note ID, we increment it. And then notes. So we will have to do some other stuff now that this function needs. Like we need to have a function for, let me just put that here, to create a new note. We need to have a function that creates a new note div. We will also need a function to display, but that would be the last function we do before we do the delete buttons functions. But after that, we will need local storage. Say get item from local storage. So we have a function for that. Function get data from storage. And then this is just going to be an easy function. It's going to return local storage. Local storage dot get item. Notes. And then JSON dot parse. Local storage dot get item notes. If you don't understand how to use local storage, just check out, I have a tutorial on local storage actually. Check that out on my page where I go in depth on how to use it, how to use parse and stringify and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's keep it going. And yep, the next part here is we can say let notes equal to get this function we just created. Now we can say nodes dot push. I will have a tutorial soon on push and pull and on shift and shift. And nodes item. And then we are going to create this. I'm just going to put it here because sometimes it's better to do stuff when you remember it. But even though error message would tell me what I did wrong, so I would remember that I needed to put this. But just for, yeah, we're going to create a, this is going to be a function that creates a node. So now let's saving to local storage. Just say local storage dot set item notes JSON dot stringify notes. Put a colon there. Say notes title dot value is equal to empty string, no title, no content, the value is equal to empty string 2. So here, now let's just go to the CSS real quick and add the color for our warning that we just created. The class we just created that's called warning. It's border color RGBA 255.11.89 0.8. And put this important so it knows that is very important for us. So now let's create this function here. We're going to create the create note function. Create note takes note item constant div is equals to document dot creates element, which is a div dot class list dot add note item and also div dot set attributes. data ID note item dot ID, and then for sure you should know inner HTML. And for the inner HTML, we're going to use string literals. And H3. H3. Bug there. Small letter. H3 and H3. And P and P for the P tag. So now we use the $sign. Note item dot title. Note item dot content for our content. I'm just gonna go here and copy and paste what we have here in the HTML already, because it's practically the same thing. Because that's what we're creating right now. So I will comment this out very soon. And then a comma, then node list div.append child. So now we've created our. So now I'm gonna comment out this section here. Yes, so you see it's no more showing. Commented it out because we don't need that. The only reason we had it there was number one, to style it and just to see how what we're going to create in the JavaScript is going to turn out. So now it's about display. We need to display our notes. Display all the notes from our local storage. Call this function display notes. And say let notes equal to get our function get data from storage. So if notes dot length is less than 0, sorry, it's greater than 0. Node dot length is greater than 0. Note ID is equal to notes nodes dot length -1 dot id. Yeah, we're almost done. This is the last function. We do that. We'll be able to see our notes, but we won't be able to delete them, which is important because we are using local storage, and if we don't set a delete, it's going to be there forever on that page. That's one of the good and bad things of local storage. So then note ID incremented. And we have an else. Node ID is equal to 1. And also we use for each. I will have a tutorial on for each very soon. For each is way of iterating. For each item create note item. Yes, now we can just add the event listeners. If we have the event listeners, they should listen for the clicks. Okay, let me put this comment where it should be. Just to make it orderly. Yeah, comments are very important, so you have to take them serious. And yeah, so let's add more event listeners to this right here. Have document dot add event listener DOM content loaded. So when the DOM loads, display notes. Samurai Sam loves to code. We have a spelling error here. Attributes, let's see. That's the bug. Double R. Samurai Sam loves to code. And yep, we see it here. It shows up. But we have a button that doesn't work. These two buttons don't work. So that's what we're doing. But now we can see it's showing. If you check our console, no errors, nothing. So yeah, but you see it keeps on loading and this keeps on appearing, because even if we cancel this and come back here, this will still show, because that's one of the perks of using local storage, is that when you get items or set items, you also have to remove items. If not, they stay there. So yeah, that's the next part. So now it's the delete function. This button right here, setting the functionality for that to delete each individual. Delete notes. Delete a note. So we set a function delete node, take an event, and say if e.target dot class list dot contains delete node button, so e.target dot parent element dot remove so basically removing from the DOM and then let div id equal to event.target the parent element the data set dot id. And also let nodes equal get data from storage. Yep, we're almost there. And then let new node new nodes list equal node dot filter. Say item now return item.id is not equal to parse int dot div id. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. So then local storage the set item nodes JSON the stringify new nodes list. Yep. So now we need to add the event listener for that, for this function. So I hope you're seeing the process that goes. You create the function, you do all the functionality. If that function you're creating has to be triggered by a click button, or has to be, it could even be an onload, maybe when the DOM loads, then you set an event listener that listens for that action. say node list div dot add event listener. It's going to be a click event, and our function delete nodes gets activated. So now we can see I just got the class name wrong, so that's why it didn't work out earlier, is because here the class that we put inside here in the create note was button, so this also had to be button. So yeah, so we can see now create an individual, say samurai Sam loves to code. I don't know what that was. Loves to code. We add it, then we have a delete button that removes it from our local storage. So yeah, the next part is just having this button to work so that we can delete all, so we don't have to individually delete all notes, because we could have like 5 or 10 notes and we just want to delete everything. So that's what this button is going to do. And yeah, you guessed it right, we will create an event listener too for that. Delete all notes. Function do function delete all notes. Bug there. Function spelled wrong. Say local storage dot remove item as a function for removing all in JSON. Notes. Now say let note list equal document dot query select all dot note item if note list dot length is greater than 0, then note list dot for each item note list div. So then we remove the child. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Put it down in the comments below and I will explain in depth. Might even create a video on that topic. Basically resetting node ID to 1. So yeah, now we just create an event listener for this. Let me copy the function name. Just because I don't want to write it and then misspell it. We say document dot get element by ID, delete all button dot add event listener, and we're listening for a click, and then our function name. So we create JavaScript. Let's say JavaScript is a great programming language. Add it to our list. We can do another one. We can say C++. C++ is a low level programming language. Just writing stuff so we can, and then we click delete all and we can see everything is gone. So we can see it here. We have a note taking app. We can say Samurai Sam loves to learn and teach programming. You can also put a note. Viewers, please like and subscribe to the channel if you got any benefits. Hope I spelled that right. It really helps the channel. Didn't spell really right. And then we add that. So now you can see we have two lists and we just click delete all and everything is gone. So yes, that's it. We finally finished it. This is the note-taking app done with vanilla JavaScript, meaning no frameworks, no dependencies, just JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. If you liked the video, if you benefited from it, please support the channel by liking the video and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below if you actually got your own app working too. I will leave the code pen link for this tutorial so you can also get the code. And yeah, peace out. Keep on learning and more contents to come this year. So yeah, bye.